Hey, welcome back to Corporate Classy, but please come correct podcast. I am your host, Alberta Thomas, and I'm back again. But this time I'm back with the Sunday Soul session. If you listen to my first season, Sunday Soul session was built around just allowing people to freely talk about anything. Sometimes there was no particular topic, just talk. And you probably remember when I had my amazing life coach on here. That was one of the most popular episodes that people listen to. So she is back in season two as well. I can't wait for you guys to hear what we talked about and how we check in and all that good stuff. Want you guys to, if you're listening to this podcast, whether it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, whatever it is, whatever day it is, grab yourself a nice glass of water, wine, whatever you want to grab. I'm drinking tea tonight. My tummy so I'm drinking something hot for my tummy. But I want to have some conversations, okay? Because I would tell you over the last couple of weeks, man, maybe even about a month now, I've been finding myself having multiple conversations about boundaries, when to let something go, when it's time to say, hey, you've done all that you can, and when two people, when they have not respect your boundaries or not showing up consistently for you, right? Or for themselves, whatever that could be. So, I want to talk a little bit about how important it is to make sure that you set boundaries. And whether that's at work, whether that's at home, relationship, whatever, it is important to understand that you have to set boundaries. So, let me tell you something. I remember last season as I'm prepping to go into season two, I sometimes like to do like what do you call it? Like Google ads, right? Promoting my podcast and things of that nature. And the beautiful thing that I like about the system that I use is that it tells me what people are searching for. What are some of the key words, the key statements? And a lot of people struggle with boundaries, not feeling guilty telling someone no. They probably felt bad that they didn't have enough boundaries or they didn't set clear expectations along with some boundaries. It was so much. And, statistically, it states that about 80% of people feel overwhelmed because they lack personal boundaries. That's a lot of people. That's a big number. And so for me, as I am going through the motions of continuing to stand firm on my boundaries and making sure that they are respected, that came with some work. That didn't just happen overnight. And I think it's important to understand where to start, right? Because I think a lot of times people will say, well, how do you set boundaries? I think ultimately it has to start with what are your needs? What are your expectations? What is it that you want? Rather, you take a moment to think, put it in your phone. If you like me, I'm old fashioned. I write everything down. Now I got my podcast, so I pour everything into my podcast. So being able to jot some things down of what it is that you want first, whether it's you're trying to get something out of work, whether it's you're going into the dating scene again, are you currently in a relationship and you probably need to reset some expectations or some clear boundaries. Whatever that is, first you have to be able to identify those things with yourself. And I think when we talk about boundaries, it could be physical boundaries, emotional boundaries, mental time. I'm big on time. That's my big thing. I don't like my time to be wasted. So I think just being able to identify what it is that you want, right? and setting clear boundaries. And that's a start. That's start there. That's the first step. Understand why you're creating those boundaries. What makes you choose to create that particular boundary? Like for me, for example, I know I like time. I don't like my time to be wasted. I like my time to be planned out, thought out. Sometimes people like to say, like, you that means I'm always gotta be on 10, I'm always on my toes, all of those things. And it's like, no, not all the time, but for a large bulk of time, we need to have a plan. We can't always wing life together, right? So when I'm able to see that you as a partner, or you as a peer, or you as one of my employees, when I see that you set clear expectations and boundaries around what it is that you're going after, what it is that you're trying to do, that goes to show me how you're going to manage your time. Right. And I think it's important to make sure that you set them, because if you don't set them, then where is that self respect for yourself? And how can you maintain those healthy relationships that you want if there is no boundaries that's being set? And if you know me and know me, don't play no games when it comes to me. I'm telling you, I don't. I've done a lot of self work. I've done a lot of healing within myself. I chose to live my life a different way. I chose to maneuver my life a different path from the average person. So, what we're not going to do is tamper with the hard work I put in and that I continue to put in, because I think I said this on the last episode. I am still growing and evolving, now 33 years old. Still learning, still growing, still looking for ways to continue to get better. But no one has to tell me to go do that. I'm going to go do it myself. Right? I'm going to take full responsibility in making sure I continue to heal myself, work on myself, get better with dealing with emotions for myself, because that's the big thing for me, is finding the boundaries and maintaining the boundaries that I have set on my emotions when I am so headstrong, right? And so you got to have a plan, right? And I think by you having a plan and recognizing that you probably don't have a plan, it allows you to grow and be more self-aware, and you're able to pick up on the cues, the signs, whether it's in a relationship, at work, you're able to identify things that are going to either be one, triggering for you, two, it's going to be good because people may understand that you have so much self-respect for yourself that they know not to cross the line. And it's just that simple. I think I need to say that part again. People will respect you more and your boundaries when they realize that you're serious about your boundaries and your respect, and that you have something in place, and that you're self aware when you don't or when you do, and being okay with telling people no. Man, you asked me to do something? Nope. No, I'm not that bad. But if I don't want to do it, guess what? It ain't happening. It is what it is. It has to make sense for me. And so being okay with telling someone no is a part of that first step. Because I was a person at one time where I felt like if I told someone no, that I felt hurt. But then I realized I wasn't telling someone no. I was feeling hurt, which was a temporary feeling. But I also know I needed to say no, but I knew why I was saying no. So it's a difference from you just saying no and then being in your feelings. But when you are in a better spot in your life and you understand your why behind your no, you're not going to feel guilty about why you told someone no. You ask me now, ask my family, my friends, anyone connected to me, no. And let me tell you why. That's my favorite thing. Let me tell you why I'm telling you no. And so That's another one of the things to recognize when you do have boundary issues, or if you're trying to work at getting better at setting proper boundaries, not feeling guilty when you have to say no, right? And so when you talk about personally, right? So get your pen, okay? Got your pen? Get your pen and paper and listen to me, okay? Let's talk about 4 steps. 4 steps, and I literally just gave you one of my favorite steps, right? So, first, identify your needs, okay? We talked about that a little earlier. Identify what your personal needs are. What's your limits? What are your limits? What are you going to allow? But what's going to also be your deal breakers? The second thing, clear communication. It is important that you communicate clearly of what your boundaries are and do it with. Now, let me tell you, I used to be that person where I have boundaries, I have standards, and just mad. Mad when you don't understand, or just mad trying to explain it. Like I've been there in my 20s. But over time, there is growth that took place. So, communicating what the boundaries are clearly and respectfully and standing on that. The third thing, when you communicate your boundaries, right, it may sound selfish. It's okay if you talk about yourself, right? It may sound a little selfish, but make sure you incorporate statements that uses I, right? So make sure you're using I want to make sure I set clear boundaries without starting any problems. I want you to know what my deal breaker is and what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do. What I need for you to do for me and what's not going to bother me. Other words, making sure you are aware that certain things are triggering for me, right? So it's best to communicate those things clearly. Be okay with using I because you're talking about yourself. So you want to make sure you stand confidently. Make sure you have confidence when you're speaking about yourself, right? And if you don't have any confidence, that's another episode where I can just talk about confidence and how to build that, right? But make sure you have confidence when you talk about yourself. And the last thing, and I said it earlier, if you got to practice telling people no, deal with people you don't care about. Okay, that's probably the bad example. But practice on people. Practice telling people no. And remember, when I tell somebody no, I'm like, well, let me tell you why I told you no. Here is my why. Why I'm telling you no in this moment. Why I'm gonna tell you no. That's off limits. And then what happens when you do those things and you stand confidently in those things, you're not leading with emotions, you're making sure that you're clear and you understanding what your needs are. When you do all of those things, you're going to gain that whether that person stay there, whether they decide like, "Hey, that's too much for me. Thank you for being upfront. I'm going to go elsewhere." Or maybe they don't like it. Guess what? At the end of the day, that's on them. Maybe they need some help on how to set boundaries. Send them my podcast. But no, seriously. So those are the steps that I took. Those are the steps that I continue to try to do. Now, let me tell you, I'm not perfect. Sometimes I get on the left side a little bit, but making sure that I can wheel myself back in as quickly as possible is just as important as me setting those clear boundaries. And I'm gonna be honest, I do some of these same things when it comes to work, right? Understanding what my rights are, understanding how to professionally communicate, managing my time properly, and understanding that work and life for me is going to harmony work together in harmony. Okay. And so it's the same thing. And it's crazy because I've been finding myself talking about this so much over the last month. So much. I mean, from work, from personal. I've been talking about, for me, resetting expectations and boundaries. I've been talking about this for a long time. But what is even more important, making sure that you are consistent. If you said these are your things, if you said these are your boundaries, these are your limitations, these are your deal breakers, stay consistent. Stay consistent. Don't bend those things for nobody. No. Sometimes you find yourself saying, well, damn, because I did this too. Sometimes my boundaries and expectations may not be always realistic. So sometimes you may find yourself going back to look at what your expectation is or revisiting that to see what it is and making sure that it's clear. Making sure that it's not unrealistic with what you have in front of you. Not saying make sure they're realistic, that they can be met, and that you're not living in a fantasy world. Because a lot of times we do that sometimes, right? Another thing is handling pushback, right? So say, hey, you said these things, you're getting resistance, you're getting pushback from others. It's as simple as this. Hey, these are my expectations, these are my boundaries. If you can't respect them, then that is what it is. Let me know what you need from me. And it's just that simple. My sister used to always tell me, oh my God, you're so mean. And I'm like, no, I'm not mean. It's just that when I put in time and when I put in work in anybody or something, I'm not getting respected and my expectations are not being met. And I've tried all the things to show you, guide you, make sure you're getting back on, making sure I'm back on track, whatever the case may be. At the end, if you're not there, it's goodbye. Relationship, friendship, maybe work. Work is a little different because I need money. Cool thing is, right? You can bend your expectations if you want to. You can change them if they need to be changed because over time they probably will change. As you continue to grow, you get older, you're changing as a person, you're evolving and getting better. They may change. Your wants may be a little bit more, may go a little higher than normal, and that's okay. But it's just making sure that your foundation is set and that in the midst of all of that, that you're actually taking care of yourself and you showing yourself all that self-care, practicing all of these things, supporting and maintaining boundaries. Because if you don't have any, people will play with you. I'm gonna say that one more time. If you don't have any boundaries, people will play with you. They will not take you serious. They will lose faith. They will lose confidence. They'll lose everything. You know why? Because they feel like you lost all of those things in yourself. Set clear boundaries. So I'll tell you, I've been in the house with a heating pad wrapped around my tummy. I've been drinking tea all day. I've been looking at TV all day. Something just kept saying, hey, you need to record a session real quick and talk about boundaries. Somebody need to hear this. Somebody need to know that it does not take much to take time for yourself to understand what it is that you want and need and stand on it. If you do these things, I promise you, your relationships will be better. Personal growth that you have with yourself will be better. You will have more self respect. People going to respect. You're not going to feel overwhelmed when you tell someone no. You're not going to feel like you lack boundaries because you set clear ones. And so I would tell you that some of the things that I do to navigate my thoughts, because I'm a thinker, sometimes I overly think as well, right? Some of the things that keep me going is that I journal. When I tell you I take my journaling seriously, some things I have to leave on paper because maybe it's not worth it. Maybe it's not necessary to even talk about. Maybe it's meant to leave on a paper. Some things I have to write out to make sure that it's clear for me and so I can personally understand it. So I journal. Y'all, I probably journal maybe once or twice a day. depending on the day. And when I miss a day or two, I can tell. I can tell it how I feel because that kind of interrupt the flow and the habit that I have created for myself with journaling and understanding my mindset and where I am. So I journal. Now, because I have a podcast, I'm in the motion of if I have a thought, if I have a feeling, or if I have something that pops up in my head, I send voice recordings to myself. I record myself. And my podcast is my therapy. My life coach is my person that keep me grounded. And find some of those things that's going to keep you grounded. Identify. I want to tell you, if you're listening to this episode and you know you haven't probably touched on setting clear expectations and boundaries for yourself in a minute, I want to challenge you to take some time to identify what your boundaries are, or go out here and set some new ones, or maybe you have to go and reset the current ones that you have because nothing changed. I challenge you to do that. When you do that, you will gain so much more respect. So much more respect. I promise you. Listen, that's all I got. I feel like that was on my chest. I needed to get out. I had a long day. I feel so restless, but my tummy cramps, but I feel so restless. I felt like I needed to get that off my chest so people can understand how important it is to set your boundaries and that you maintain those things and you stand on business, okay? Stand on business, please. Don't bend them. Stand on it. And so, thank you for tuning in. Again, you will randomly get these episodes on Sunday that drops where I'm coming to you talking about anything. I may have a special guest in talking about some things. If you haven't listened to any of my podcasts, remember we are on season 2. So go get catch. I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple. Even if you go to my website, corporateclassypodcast.com, you're able to listen right through my website. I also have articles that's going to be on there, journals that I write are on there. And you're able to see what I'm going to be doing coming up here. I've been doing a lot of things around networking, building my own brand and staying on top of things. I love it. That's my extra stuff that I like to do. It's been great for me and it's been really, really good. I've been getting so much compliments from how I helped someone just by them listening to my podcast. And that's what I want. I don't care if it's two, three, four, five. I don't care if one person got something from my podcast. That is the mission, and my community of people will continue to grow. And I'm going to continue to manifest nothing but good things over my life and over your life as well. Again, don't forget to follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram. You can find me at Bravo CC. On Facebook, you can find my page, Corporate Classy Podcast, or Alberta Thomas. They're all linked together. And just thank you for vibing with me. Thank you for taking time out of your day to hit play and listen to this episode. Again, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, peace.